I need you to watch this video and then I'm gonna explain what's going on.
Wow, bro. What is going on? What is going on?
Some people believe that this is part of Project Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam is basically this huge conspiracy theory that the government is going to fake an alien invasion. / they were going to use artificial intelligence to create a second coming. Basically, they're going to scare us into a new world order. They want a totalitarian world government. This is the dude that brought this whole thing to attention. He was a Canadian investigative journalist that basically found out that NASA and the government were doing this together. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. This video is probably gonna get flagged and probably taken down. But with all the supposed UFO sightings, not even this, it's just a little.
It's a Japanese superstition that you should never cut your nails at night because it opens you up, your flesh, to spirits to come inside of you.
Whoa,
Pause.
Pause.
There's this like ritualistic game in Japan that used to play. It's called Hattori Kakurenbo. That translates to hide and seek alone. So the way you play, you get a doll and you slice it open. And when you slice it open, you take your fingernail clippings and a prick of blood and put it inside of the doll. And you need specifically like red thread to sew it up together, right? Apparently what happens is the doll will start to play hide and seek with you. So what you tell it 3, 2, 1, I'm ready to play. And you start playing with it. You say, you're it. And then once you say it the third time, it's going to start looking for you around the house.
And what if it finds you?
This is what's So on Reddit, there are these 2 girls. They lived in Japan and they're like college students. They decided to play it. Fuck, bro.
Elon Musk is nanny exposes it all.
Because I go, is he human? I asked my aunt. She's like, I don't know. Those Illuminati. He opened up something. A portal, a Stargate, whatever, but he was excited and he was jumping up and down. And
so he was able to open up a Stargate in his room.
Whatever you want to call it.
Can I show you a scary video? No, because this video is so weird. So in this video, you see a man with his daughter at the park at night, but when the daughter approaches a nearby tree, this happens.
Y por ahí viene la mujer más hermosa de todo este planeta. Enojada y enojada. Oh, May. Algo se corrió detrás de ti. Devuélvete para atrás a ver qué es lo que fue. Yo te sigo. Por aquí se movió algo. Por aquí, por este árbol.
Now, a lot of people are claiming that it's a duende, because you know the tiny feet, while others claim that it's ghostly feet. So is it a duende? Is it a ghost? Is it a prank? I don't know. What do you think?
One of you is going to end up dead. This is the chilling statement that friends of this couple made prior to a horrifying turn of events. On the 25th of March 2022, 24-year-old OnlyFans model Abigail White killed her boyfriend. She stabbed Bradley Lewis through the heart with a kitchen knife when he told her he wanted to finish the relationship. When police arrived at the scene, she actually tried to tell them that he'd done this to himself, but she quickly confessed. She said that she'd never meant to hurt him. Abigail was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 18 years in prison. Shockingly, despite being in prison, she has been able to find a new boyfriend on the outside.
Breaking news: John Pork is alive and he is waiting in a shack in Ohio. He is waiting for someone to answer his calls, so whatever you do, don't answer his calls or you may get John Porked.
Here are some faces of characters that you've probably never seen before, so I apologize in advance. So in the South Park movie, Kenny finally took off the hoodie and his entire face and voice was revealed. Shy Guy face revealed in this cutscene in Mario Power Tennis, in which it revealed that he doesn't really have a face. Ghost from Call of Duty was leaked during the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, and this definitely brought some split reactions from the community. Miss Bellum from the Powerpuff Girls briefly showed her face during this episode. An ugly naked guy from Friends was revealed to be this man, John Hagen. Master Chief from Halo has kept his helmet on forever, but he's actually Buzz Lightyear. No, I'm kidding, but this is actually what Master Chief apparently looks like under the hood. Mammy from Tom and Jerry, whose voice has been heard throughout numerous episodes, only quickly face revealed once in all these years on air. And then lastly, here's Rey Mysterio.
Stop scrolling because this has to be one of the strangest Skinwalker encounters ever. TikTok user General El Gato said that one time he was home alone when he was 10 with his dog who hated him. He was playing Minecraft and then his dog started barking. He walked out of his room and he saw his dog standing on his hind legs downstairs. He said that he started crying and he tried calling his mom, and then his dog said, "No one will believe you." And it smiled. He ran to his room and locked the door, and then his dog said again, "No one will believe you." And he heard glass break. He went to sleep, and when he woke up the next morning, his dog had gone missing.
In the moonlight, my honey, I know.
You'd never think that these are the faces of two 12-year-old killers, but that's exactly what they are. Jake Eakin and Evan Savoy were 12 years old and lived in the small town of Ephrata in Washington. They were described by parents as soft-spoken and nice boys. On February 15, 2003, they decided to go and call on another boy to see if he wanted to come out and play. Nobody could have predicted the horror that they were planning. Craig Sauger, 13, was at home with his mum when the two boys knocked on the door. His mum answered and was surprised to see them standing on the doorstep. Craig didn't get invited out to play much. He was on the spectrum and didn't really get included with the other boys. She happily let him go out to play but told him to come back before it got dark. As night fell, Craig's mum began to get worried and she decided to go out and look for her son. She called on Jake and Evan's parents and found that they were both already home. They said that they'd left Craig in the park and that he was going to walk home by himself. She headed to the park and to her horror, she found her son's lifeless body buried under a pile of leaves. She called for an ambulance, but it was already too late. Craig was dead. Jake and Evan's story was that Craig was climbing a tree when he fell. They freaked out and ran home and left him there by himself. The next day, after finding blood on the boy's shoes, the parents turned them into police. Craig's autopsy showed multiple stab wounds, 5 to his chest and torso, and 34 to his head and neck. Both of the 12-year-old boys were arrested and tried for Craig's murder. They were treated as adults in court due to the severity of the crime. They became the youngest murder defendants in the state to be tried as adults since 1931. Jake testified against Evan and said that it was him that had told Craig to bend down and count to 10 before dropping a massive rock on his neck. He then began stabbing him, and it was then that Jake joined in with the murder. Jake was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 14 years in prison. And Evan was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years. The shocking thing about this story is that both boys were released in 2020 and are now grown men and are married and living.
Alright guys, when you're sleeping, never ask for the time. And I'll tell you why. It is said that when you're sleeping and you're dreaming, there is no time, there is no date. So if you ask for the time, it means that you are still in a lucid dream. So in other words, you still are conscious that you are dreaming. Many who have done it say that once you ask for the time, your dream turns into a nightmare, and people without any facial features start chasing you. Also, there are other times that whenever someone has asked for the time, someone actually told them the time, and when they woke up, it was that exact time. But there is a theory that says that whenever you're dreaming, in reality you access the matrix and you leave the simulation. And in that place, if you ask for the time, people know you don't belong there because time doesn't exist. So they try to capture you and they try to send you back. But tell me, next time you dream, will you ask for the time?
The horror of the abandoned Silent Hill Lunatic Asylum. The hospital was accused of carrying out illegal experimental treatments on patients. A fire broke out, killing 3 doctors, while 5 patients escaped. Locals claim they can still hear the screams of the souls who suffered and died here. Some bodies are supposedly buried and hidden in the grounds. All records of patients and staff perished in the fire, so no criminal investigation could take place. The escaped patients were never seen again. Now this is all that remains of this sinister place. The truth may never be known.
This man is considered the UK's Jeffrey Dahmer. In February 1983, a plumber was called out to an apartment in London. Residents were having issues with blocked drains, but nothing could have prepared this Dino Rod employee for what he found. He discovered the blockage was caused by human flesh and bones. Dennis Nelson was a resident in the building and was there at the time and actually commented, "It looks to me like someone has been flushing down their Kentucky Fried Chicken." It turned out Dennis was the culprit. It was him who'd been trying to flush human remains down the drainage system. Growing up, Dennis had struggled to come to terms with his sexuality. At 16, he joined the army, where he was a butcher. He then became a police officer once he left, and he developed a sick fascination with dead bodies. In his personal life, he wanted to meet men, but he would feel lonely when they left him. He therefore came up with a sick plan to make sure they could never leave. His first victim was actually a 14-year-old boy. He met him at a pub before plying him with alcohol and eventually strangling and drowning him. Disgustingly, he then washed his body and took it to bed and attempted to SA it. Dennis would later go on to justify him abusing corpses by saying that they don't feel anything or suffer, so it was fine for him to do what he wanted with them once the person was dead. Now, before moving house, he was actually hiding his victims' bodies under the floorboards, but when the smell became too much, he started burying them in the garden. When Dennis moved house, he had to change up his disposal method. He thought flesh would go into the sewers and just never be found. He was obviously very wrong about this. He was eventually caught when the plumber alerted police of the rotting flesh that he'd discovered. Dennis calmly showed the police the bag of body parts he kept in his wardrobe. Between 1978 and 1983, he'd killed at least 12 people. He was eventually sentenced to life in prison. He expressed no remorse and no desire to be free. If you enjoy my longer content, please do make sure that you follow my YouTube, because TikTok have taken away my 10-minute function.
If you're thinking about ignoring your gut instinct, don't. Here are 3 reasons why you should trust it. BuzzFeed user Vodka Sunshine said that when she was in college, there was this really cute guy in one of her classes. A week or 2 in, they had to work together on a small project, and she was pretty excited about the opportunity to get to know him. After speaking to him though, she got a really bad vibe from him, but nothing specific that she could put her finger on. She said that she lost all attraction to him and knew that she should keep her distance. A month or 2 later, their teacher announced that the guy had been arrested for murdering a girl he was dating. Reddit user Helios21 said that he was at a club on a boardwalk with some buddies in Puerto Rico. He said that he just didn't feel right and he told them that they should leave. They fussed and moaned, but eventually they all left. Before they even hit the parking lot, a massive shootout broke out inside the club. The front door guy was shot to death and a few of the people inside were as well. It was literal pandemonium, people screaming and running everywhere. The ride back to their place was quiet, but they all knew they got really lucky that night. Reddit user BreakTD said that over 20 years ago, when he was 17 or so, 2 of his buddies came to pick him up to get the night started. He got in the back of their car, but as soon as he sat down, he had a feeling of impending doom rush over him. He said that he had never felt that feeling before, and never felt it since. He immediately asked to be let out with some excuse and said that they would catch up later. He got out, and he said the feeling quickly faded, so he went on about his day. About 2 hours later, he catches up with some other friends, and they immediately tell him that the 2 friends that came to pick him up earlier were involved in a major car accident. Both were seriously hurt and in the hospital. The accident happened about 10 minutes after they tried to pick him up. They both survived. The car did not survive though. It was struck in the passenger side rear right, where he would have been sitting. Reddit user BreakTD said that he was pretty positive after seeing the damage done that he would not have survived.